going to ask if you have any questions that you just hold on to them for now. We're on a pretty tight timeline because we have one of our speakers who wasn't able to come in person from Toronto. He's joining us via Skype, so there's some technical logistical issues. I did want to take a second and recognize Gary Bass, who's here from the RCMP. Of course, he was just recently promoted to be the head of the RCMP in Western Canada. So I'm very glad to have someone so high up in the RCMP here today and reflecting the importance of this issue for them. And I know that they're doing some work in Whitehorse and the Yukon on sobering centers in light of the Silver Fox death. And I'm very glad that they're here. And there was just a miscommunication from my end on is the only reason why there isn't a speaker here from the RCMP today to talk about that work. But they are certainly working on and interested in the issue as well, so thank you for coming. At this stage, I'd ask our panelists who just spoke to make some space for Don McPherson, and who is a harm reduction expert, who's the author of the City of Vancouver's 4-pillar drug strategy, and knows all about the various hurdles that need to be overcome within government to institute new harm reduction services. And Scott Thompson from the Vancouver Police Department, who will speak about that police department's efforts to establish a sobering center in Vancouver and police perspective on this very pressing issue. What makes the most sense? Maybe Scott, you should. I'd like to welcome up Scott from the VPD. We're very grateful to have, as I said, so much police participation today and the Vancouver Police Department here to speak about what they're doing. Thanks, Scott.
On behalf of Chief Constable Jim Chu and the VPD Executive, thank you very much for having us here today. Deputy Chief Doug Lepard is in the audience from the Vancouver Police Department as well. Myself, I'm Inspector Scott Thompson, in charge of the Youth Services Section. I also have the Drug and Mental Health portfolios for the Vancouver Police Department. I'm going to start off with the basic position of the Vancouver Police Department. So the basic position of the VPD and the Police Board is to support all proposals that treat chronic alcoholism as a public health issue, as opposed to a moral or criminal issue. The VPD and the board support the creation of a separate sobering center that can accept persons arrested hold SIP, whether they are violent or nonviolent. This is distinct from the present system. Further to that, the jail should not be used as a short-term sobering center, but should be reserved for persons facing detention pursuant to criminal charges. Our position, the VPD and board position, is that it should be revisited and made a reality. In addition, if wet shelters or a measured alcohol program for chronic alcoholics were proposed from a public health perspective, as likely being beneficial to the mental and physical health of chronic alcoholics and beneficial to the public, the VPD and the board would support this initiative. And finally, the VPD and board also fully support the involvement of Vancouver's Aboriginal community in the treatment of chronic alcoholics who are Aboriginal. The existing model is we typically hold 10 people, adults. We could use more cells to increase our capacity if we had to. We can hold up to 18 youth, 15 to 20 females, and once again, we could use other cells if needed. Persons intoxicated in public are transported to the sobering unit of detox center if they don't have a history of violence. Otherwise, they go to our jail. Jail staff members are required to replace wet clothing and check on intoxicated persons every 15 minutes. Nursing staff must visually assess prisoners on admission every hour thereafter. Before release, jail staff must ensure that prisoners are able to care for themselves, are dressed appropriately for the weather, and have a place to go. Between 2005 and 2008, the number of yearly submissions for persons arrested for hold SIP had doubled. In 2008-2009, after discussions with health, much of this has been shifted back to detox. So, for example, in 2008, the Vancouver Police Department had a total of 23,239 prisoners. Of those, 6,123, or 26% of those individuals, were hold SIP. In 2009, I only have the data for the first quarter. The hold SIP was at 1,445. When we look at the detox at 377 East 2nd Avenue, they have room for 22 adults, male or female, and 4 places for youth. And Vancouver Coastal Health has provided the totals for persons admitted to the sobering center or detox. So from April 1st, 2009 to March 31st, 2010, there was 2,617 admissions. And the total from April 2009 to November 11th, 2010 was 4,502 admissions. We had discussions with the sobering center simply because of the fact that there was a drop in numbers, and some of that workload, I'll call it, has been shared between us more evenly. However, the majority is still going to Vancouver Jail. We look at the background for the historic sobering center proposal. This is going back into the mid-90s. So in July 1995, the City of Vancouver and the Province of BC agreed that by March 1999, the BC Corrections Branch would take over from the VPD responsibility for the jail, which included the jail's drunk tank. However, a term of this contractual arrangement was that people briefly detained for being intoxicated in a public place but not charged criminally would not be allowed in the new jail. The rationale for this contractual term was that Corrections Branch only dealt with people who were charged or convicted of criminal offenses. The parties had limited time to devise a different strategy for the handling of chronic alcoholics as a result of this. There was recognition of public intoxication and detoxification were health issues, and that Vancouver, particularly the downtown east side, was in desperate need of a sobering center, a safe place to hold people intoxicated by drugs and or alcohol. By late 1997, it was proposed that the 3 floors of the old jail, situated at 324 Main Street, would be converted into a state-of-the-art sobering facility capable of housing up to 40 individuals in 6-hour to 3-day triage setting. This facility would accept males, females, and youth intoxicated by drugs or alcohol, as well as offenders with a mental disorder. Until such a facility could be developed, it was proposed that the 4th floor of that building be renovated for use as an interim facility. By early 1998, the City of Vancouver, including the VPD, the Vancouver Richmond Health Board, as it was called then, and the Ministry of Children and Families, as it was called then, began negotiations, and a VPD inspector was appointed as a project manager. A steering committee retained a consultant who in June 1998 developed a detailed acute intoxication intervention service plan calling for a 2-phase response. Phase 1 would be a short stay, 7 to 12 hours, safe haven for those acutely intoxicated by drugs or alcohol. It would be capable of handling up to 50 individuals who would come in on their own, be brought in by police, friends, or Safe Ride, or family, or be referred by other agencies. It would also include a secure area for those posing a serious threat of violence and would have the capacity to hold people involuntarily for a period of time. Phase 2 would be a voluntary 72-hour non-medical detoxification program in the same building as the Phase 1 Sobering Center with 16 to 20 beds. The idea was to bridge the gap between the Sobering Center and a more structured program of addiction treatment in the health system. By July 1998, some parties were questioning the suitability and the cost of renovating the old jail facility at 324 Main. Other options were then considered. The Coroner's Court at 236 East Cordova was one location. There was suggested perhaps an alternative site which might include construction of a purpose-built building, or to convert an existing hotel, which would include a sobering center, a detox facility, alcohol and drug-free housing, and an alcohol and drug intervention service. By late 1998, serious disagreements over responsibility for chronic alcoholics and differing funding priorities surfaced. This resulted in the VPD exercising its rights under 1995 Project 222 Vancouver Jail Agreement to require the Corrections Branch to accept chronic alcoholics. By that, meaning intoxicated persons or mentally disordered persons who are not charged with a criminal offense would be admitted to the jail, or would not be admitted to jail unless there was a serious or immediate risk posed to the safety of the person or the public at large. And by June 1999, the Vancouver Richmond Health Board modified this proposal. The proposed new facility, again at 324 Main, would include a 40-mat sobering center with 8 single safe rooms. This would include 18 mats from the existing detox center sobering unit plus 22 mats, and a 40-bed voluntary detox center for short stay of 72 hours and medium stay up to 7 days. This would include 24 beds from the existing detox center plus 16 new beds. Discussions continued for several more years, but no agreement was reached respecting the development of a new sobering center. So sadly, when Frank Ball was arrested on December 5th, 1998, the system that we had then is the same system we have now. The Corrections Branch ended its contract at the jail, and the VPD resumed its staffing and direct management of this facility in June 2006. So again, to reiterate, the VPD's position is the basic position of the VPD and the Police Board is to support all proposals that treat chronic alcoholism as a public health issue, as opposed to a moral or criminal issue. The VPD and the Board support the creation of a separate sobering center that can accept persons arrested hold SIP, whether they are violent or nonviolent. And further to that, the jail should not be used as a short-term sobering center, but should be reserved for persons facing detention pursuant to criminal charges. And finally, that the VPD and the Board position is that it should be revisited, the sobering center that is, and made a reality. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Scott. And it's certainly heartening to know that we have the support of the Vancouver Police Department in pushing forward on this, along with other police forces. And I received an email from Tom Stamatakis, who many people may know we disagree on a wide variety of issues. Tom could not be here today, but he said that certainly the Association of Police, who he represents, were supportive of anything that gives officers more options in dealing with people that they come into contact with who are high or drunk or otherwise appear to be mentally disordered in public. So it's nice to know that from a grassroots police perspective as well, there is support for this kind of initiative.